All right. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Otis Landerholm, and I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. The topic that I want to discuss with you today is California a quote-unquote sanctuary state? Is California a sanctuary state? We'll discuss that. All right, so thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to the Empowered Immigrant Live. I'm really grateful to each of you for tuning in, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Again, my name's Otis Landerholm. I'm a certified specialist immigration attorney, the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C. We're a law firm in Oakland, California. We fight for the rights of immigrants who are facing deportation. Okay? So welcome. Thank you for being here. Remember, the Empowered Immigrant Live is here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. All right? So today our theme is California a sanctuary state? And my question, do you want to have a strategy to protect you? Right? Do you want a law firm to have your back? Do you want to figure out what the best strategy is, what the best solution is, what the best options are for you? Because if so, I'd love to help you with that. My firm is on a mission to win 10,000 cases by 2035, and we would love for your case to be one of them. All right? So thanks everybody for being here. Let's jump in. As I'm talking about the topic, if you have questions about your immigration case, please feel free to send it over. All right, I'll do my best to answer it. Here we are. It's January 16th. All right, Trump is entering the White House in just a few more days. All right, on Monday of next week. So that's happening, and that's bad news for immigrants, and it's bad news for immigration lawyers. And ICE is talking about mass deportation efforts. All right, there's rumors that will likely include reinstituting ICE raids at work. All right, the Lack and Riley Act. All right, a new bill that's been proposed. It might pass, and it would make almost any crime, even like minor theft offenses and other relatively minor crimes. It would make relatively minor crimes require that immigrants be subject to mandatory detention, which is horrible. All right, that's not good. And we'll see if that actually passes. It might pass in the new administration. What is the day one plan? What is Trump's day one plan? Well, we're going to see if it actually happens. But according to Tom Homan, which is Trump's new border czar, on day one, they will, quote unquote, secure the border. They're going to end the CBP One app. They're going to stop taking appointments through the app to turn yourself in at the border. They're going to end the Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela parole program. They're going to, quote unquote, end catch and release, which means that the Trump administration will detain people, catch them crossing the border, but they will not release them. So there's going to be a lot more detention. Okay? So you got to be mindful of that. Also in the news, right? There were raids in California just last week. All right? And so in Bakersfield, we saw, right? There were ICE officers at a local gas station arresting immigrants, right? Asking for their papers, arresting them, putting them into deportation proceedings. And so that's here in California, right? So that brings in this question, is California a sanctuary state? All right? And one of our attorneys here in my firm, David is his name, he led a training. It was an outstanding training for my legal team this week. And he got me up to speed on this issue. All right, so I wanted to share it with each of you today. Here's the way it works. California, the state of California, is the most immigrant-friendly state in the country. All right, there are state laws that prevent local and state law enforcement officers from asking about immigration status, from helping immigration in like federal immigration enforcement efforts. All right, and from cooperating with ICE detainers to transfer a person to ICE after an arrest, for example. California also allows undocumented immigrants to get driver's licenses, which reduces the likelihood of an immigrant to get arrested for just driving without a license. Like millions of people get arrested for that throughout the country. Okay? So there's a lot of protections in the state of California. Like if you are undocumented and you want to take advantage of the best laws in the United States, come to California. All right, I'm just telling you the truth. But there's a couple things you got to know. All right? First is the state laws affect state and local enforcement, but they do not change the rules of federal, which is immigration enforcement. And ICE is here too. All right? And Border Patrol is here too. And those agencies are federal agencies, and they can still arrest people. All right? Yes, California state laws reduce, they don't eliminate, but they reduce cooperation or assistance with the feds. But California state laws do not interfere directly with ICE conducting their own operations, which they do. All right? Oh, but what about in the city of San Francisco? Even in the city of San Francisco, ICE is there, right? I've seen them, right? I've seen them. ICE arrests do happen even in quote-unquote sanctuary areas. All right? That's the first thing you got to know. You got to understand it, right? State laws are great for restricting cooperation from state employees, but they do not change the mandate and the work and the mission of the federal employees that are out doing their thing. All right? And so you got to be aware of that. The second thing you got to know is that Trump does not like, and not just him, but the administration, they do not like sanctuary policies. All right? Tom Homan has said that sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals. All right? And my response to him and my response to that statement is, no, they're not. Like, no, they're not. That's actually incorrect. Okay? Like, there are still police in sanctuary cities. So when a crime happens in a sanctuary city, arrests happen too. All right? Like, if you think about, like, if you walk around in San Francisco, there are police. All right? They're not everywhere, but there are still arrests that do happen when there are crimes that happen. And so, you know, the other thing that Tom Homan and Donald Trump, like, if you guys are listening to me, you got to understand this, right? Being undocumented is not a crime, right? Overstaying a visa and being undocumented in the United States is not a crime. Everybody know that? Tom Homan, do you know that? You should. All right, Donald Trump, did you know that? It's not a crime to be undocumented. What? Seriously? It's not? Yeah, it's not. Should I repeat that more clearly? It is not a crime to be undocumented in the United States. Unlawful entry, unlawful re-entry, those are crimes. All right, there are immigration-related quote-unquote crimes, but just overstaying a visa, just like being undocumented, is not a crime. So what is it then? Wait a second. What is it? It's a civil violation, not a criminal violation. It's what we learn in law school is a quote-unquote tort, not a crime. Have you heard this term? All right? Nevertheless, despite that, Trump doesn't like sanctuary policies. So we're going to see if, and we're going to see how, the Trump administration tries to pressure states and localities like California, right, to start cooperating with the feds. We're going to see how that plays out. All right? I want to explain this a little bit more. Like, lawyer, what are you talking about? Being undocumented isn't a crime. Well, I just said it's not a crime, quote unquote. It's a tort. Immigration court is not criminal court. It's a civil court. This is why, everybody, this is why in immigration court, people do not have the right to have a jury of their peers decide their case. Okay? Because it's not criminal. This is why in immigration court, immigrants do not have a constitutional right to have a public defender. Because it's not criminal, quote unquote. Right? This is why in immigration court, the government doesn't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a person's deportable, or that you would have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by a jury of your peers. Those constitutional rights are rights for criminals. They are not rights for immigrants in immigration court. Everybody clear on that? Those rights don't exist in immigration court proceedings. All right? Why? Because immigration is civil, quote unquote, not criminal, quote unquote. Even though, man, it sure feels criminal. People might be detained in jail waiting for their immigration court hearing. It feels criminal, folks. But it's not treated like that, and that's messed up. It's messed up. That's the way I would describe it. Got it? So yes, conclusion, yes, California is a sanctuary state. It is one of the best states in the United States. All right? For immigrants, for human beings, for humanity. Thank you to the state of California. I'm proud to be here. All right? But nevertheless, ICE and CBP, they're still going to be out there, folks. You got to be careful. You got to know your rights. You got to have your plan. You got to know that, yeah, you don't have the right to a jury in immigration court, but you do have some rights. By the Constitution, everyone has some rights. The right to remain silent. Immigration officers come up to you. You have the right to say, sorry, officer, I choose to remain silent. Okay? Or just not say anything at all. If you're ever in a raid yourself, just remain silent. Okay? If you're nervous about immigration enforcement, talk with a lawyer. If your employer is nervous about immigration enforcement at the work site, have your employer talk to a lawyer. Right? If you're nervous for yourself, then see what options are available for you. Asylum, U visas, T visas, VAWA cases, cancellation of removal, parole in place, adjustment of status, consular processing. Figure out which option best suits your needs. Does that make sense? All right. That's all I got. That's all I got, folks. Thank you so much for being here. So I do see some folks have some questions. If you have a question, feel free to submit it. So let's see. Miguel, I see you here. Okay, what are the requirements to travel to Puerto Rico if I'm a special immigrant juvenile? Okay, have you won your SIJS process, your special immigrant juvenile process? Yeah, if you have, yeah, what can I say? Puerto Rico, it's not a state, all right, but it is a territory. So you're allowed to travel to Puerto Rico, but there is a checkpoint when you come back. All right, it's not full on going through customs when you return to the US, but there is a checkpoint, and we have experienced it. All right, this has not happened with any of my clients ever, but I've had consultations where people were given a notice to appear, or people were caught by immigration or screened by immigration coming back into the mainland of the US from Puerto Rico. All right. Now, the good thing in your situation, Miguel, is that you've got status, if I'm seeing your situation right. Now, special immigrant juvenile status, the question is, do you have your green card through special immigrant juvenile status? Because if so, you have nothing to worry about, right? You're a lawful permanent resident. You can go to Puerto Rico without issue. Okay? So, but if you don't yet have your green card, but you got your special immigrant status approved, then you should be okay, right? You should be okay. If your case is pending and not yet approved, then I would say you should hesitate, right? You don't want to be detained or have some other problem. What if your case got denied while you were out or something like that? Then that could cause a problem for you. Right? I would wait until your case really is approved before traveling. All right, Fernandez 26, thank you. I did a motion to reopen a year ago and it's not yet solved. Is this normal? Yes. Right? So different judges handle this differently. It depends on which court your motion to reopen was filed in. Some courts are so behind, it's crazy how behind they are. It's not uncommon that it takes that long, but there are things you can do. All right, there are things you can do to be calling the clerk, like, hey, what's going on? Is the judge reviewing this? Like, what's the status? If it was a very robust, meaning very thick, professionally done, well done motion, sometimes, unfortunately, it does take a while. All right, especially if it was a super old case, sometimes they have to assign it to a new judge. And that can take some time, and then for the judge to start working through their docket of old motions, yes, it can take a while. All right. So Adam Salde, I see you here. We can't wait until this fight begins. See you on the field. Yeah, that's right. Okay, hope for the best. It is a risk if you have an I-130. Is it a risk if you have an I-130 after 2 years of a deportation dismissed appeal order by the judge? Is it a risk if you have an I-130 after 2 years of a deportation was dismissed appeal order by the judge? I recommend you talk with a lawyer in your situation to really gauge the risk for you, all right? It's hard for me to tell, was your deportation dismissed or was your appeal dismissed? And there's a big difference there, all right? If your deportation proceedings got dismissed, then they would have to reinstitute them in order to put you at risk and actually deport you. But if you lost your immigration case and appealed, and your appeal got dismissed, then you're at risk, okay? Because then if you lost and then appealed it, you have an order signed by a judge ordering your deportation. All right, so I would really recommend, and based on your question, and thank you for asking it, but I would really recommend, let's have a consultation, let's talk it through, let's review the records, let's really understand which part of the process you're in so that we can fully inform you of what risks you got. Okay? Kiki, I see you here. How about married to a U.S. citizen but has a deportation on record and a permanent bar? I had a client that I met with this week in exactly this situation, and there are possible things to discuss with an attorney. I always, if there's a deportation order, I like to start by requesting all the records, making sure that the deportation order was done properly, making sure that we are very clear that there's a deportation order and there's a permanent bar. I don't like to jump to that conclusion. I want to like really do the analysis. All right. And when you're in that situation, you've got to explore other options because a family-based case no longer works if you've got a permanent bar. Like you've got to do, you got to see if you could do a motion to reopen and file for cancellation of removal, or a motion to reopen and file for asylum, or potentially file for a U visa or a T visa, or see if there's VAWA eligibility or some other option. Otherwise, the way to do it is to leave the U.S. for a period of 10 years and then do a family-based case with an I-212 waiver. But like that's horrible, you know? That's just such a horrible process. Worst case scenario, that's the way to do it. But yeah, but I would say start with a consultation. And I see your follow-up question here, Kiki. Thank you for asking it. A lawyer said that it's automatically a permanent bar. That lawyer might be correct. They might be correct because the way it works is if it is truly a deportation order, or if somebody had more than 1 year of unlawful presence in the U.S. and then left and then re-entered, then that's a permanent bar. If they re-entered unlawfully, that's a permanent bar. But you got to do that analysis. Did they really re-enter unlawfully, or did they present themselves to the border? Did they get waved in by a border patrol official? Did they, did they have some kind of visa, even if it wasn't their own visa, right? Even if it was like they lied about their identity and showed somebody else's visa, entering that way would not trigger the permanent bar, at least arguably, right? At least it arguably would not trigger the permanent bar. And so you got to think about, and you've got to really do the analysis about really is that, does the permanent bar apply in your situation? And really my best advice there is to start with FOIAs. Let's request all the records. Let's really review the deportation order. Let's really review the facts so that we can see what arguments we can put together. All right, worst case scenario, we got to see it. We got to create the plan. All right, Israel Puga, I see you here. What is the next step after an application for an I-130 is approved? Okay, that is a huge question. That is a huge question, all right? Because the next step depends on several factors, okay? Some people are eligible to use that petition here in the United States. We call that an adjustment of status, all right? They have to have been inspected and admitted or paroled into the U.S. They have to have a bona fide relationship with a U.S. citizen or with their petitioner, and they've got to be quote-unquote admissible in order to adjust status, all right? There's a few other factors if it's a petition for a sibling and not a spouse, all right? Or a petition from a parent to an adult son or daughter, right? Then there's additional requirements. I won't go into those right now. If the person's not eligible to adjust, then the next step is to send that petition to the National Visa Center. If the person has unlawful presence and is here in the U.S., then we've got to do the waiver, okay? And then the final step of the process is the consular interview in that situation. If it's a consular case, it's a consular interview in your home country. Typically, once everything's approved, once everything's good to go, someone leaves the U.S., they're out typically for about 3 weeks. They go to their interview, they get their stamp in their passport so that then they can re-enter the U.S. lawfully. All right? So Israel, if that helps, I hope that's helpful in your situation. If you have additional questions or if you want help walking through that, depending on, we got to figure out what type of petition it was. And if you would like that support, feel free to give my office a call. We'd love to help you. Okay? Great. What other questions are out there? I see a few. H34 or hi 347915. Hello. If you just something but a request for the residency, how long would it take? Well, it depends on what type of residency. All right. Kush Patel, is someone at risk under the Trump administration whose asylum case was dismissed by a judge? Well, if you are afraid for your life to return to your country, if you have a legitimate asylum claim and your case was dismissed by the judge, file your asylum case to USCIS. All right, talk to a lawyer before doing that. Don't treat my statement as legal advice specific for you. Like, you want to really review the situation, because putting yourself back into that has risks too, right? And so that's not specific legal advice for this particular situation, this particular individual. But generally speaking, if you had an asylum case that was dismissed in front of immigration court, and if you've never filed in front of the asylum office before, you can file in front of the asylum office and get yourself a work permit through that and get yourself some protection through that. But you got to know that then the asylum office will review the case, and if they deny it, they'll put you back in deportation proceedings again. Okay? And if you're in front of deportation proceedings in this new administration, they're not going to be dismissing cases anymore. It's either win or lose, right? So that's just the way it's going to be. All right. I see you here. Using Medicaid, is that a public charge issue for VAWA? VAWA is interesting, all right? VAWA has exceptions to the public charge issue, all right? And so talk to a lawyer. I'm just going to answer it like that. If you're doing a VAWA case, do not do it by yourself. Do it with the help of an attorney who knows what they're doing, who's going to do a professional job, and they can give you good advice about other benefits and the public charge stuff and everything else, all right, so that you maximize your chances of success. All right. All right. Let's see what other questions are out there. Just got the number 3 gift badge. I'm not sure what that is. Kush Patel. Thank you for saying that, but I'm not sure what that is. Let's see. How long, it's Willie. How long are the EAD advanced parole taking to come? It depends on what process you've applied for your EAD through. All right? I've got some cases where they come in 3 months. I've got other cases that we've been following up and pushing the government and following up for over a year, and our client still hasn't gotten it. It's way outside of normal processing times. It's frustrating, and sometimes that happens. All right? Kiki, you're awesome. Hey, thank you. You're awesome too. Thank you for being here. That's awesome. Case appeal was dismissed after I got a deportation order. It's been 2 years. I have an I-130 now. So the case appeal was dismissed. See, and so you have a deportation order. So here's the thing. Hope for the best. You are at risk. You are at risk. Okay? You need a motion to reopen if there's a way to reopen it. Why? Because whenever a person appeals, the government can appeal too, but whenever we, on our side, if you're listening to me and you're not part of the government, right? Whenever we appeal a case, if that appeal gets dismissed, we lose. All right? Getting an appeal dismissed is not good. Okay? It means that we lost the appeal. If we lost the appeal, then the judge's deportation order is live and valid and can be executed, and immigration can come knocking on the door. All right? And no, an I-130 does not stop that. But an I-130 could give you options to come back through a waiver after being outside the U.S. for 10 years. Okay? And in some instances, you can apply for a waiver early, if you don't have any permanent bar, right? So yes, hope for the best. That's my answer to you. Unfortunately, you do have risk. And so I do recommend speaking with a lawyer. I recommend doing it urgently, requesting all the records and seeing whether you're eligible to file a motion to reopen. Got it? All right. So let's see. I think I answered all the questions that are here. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate each of you. All right. My empowerment tip today, I always like to kind of end on an empowerment tip. I've been saying this the last several episodes, but it's the truth, right? Trump is just days from coming back into power. I want you to be ready for it. Okay? I want you to be ready for it. Our firm is ready for it. We're gearing up for it. And I want you to be ready. And so it's like, what can we do, right? I want you to know your rights. You got the right to remain silent. You got the right to not open the door. Don't open the door, right? Don't let an immigration officer into your house, all right? And so it's like we can't control everything that's going to happen in the future, but we can do what we can today to get prepared. We can at least educate ourselves today about our rights. We can at least talk with an attorney right now today to ask attorney to have our back, right? Get ready for a fight if we need to. Like, you can take steps today to empower yourself. And I want that for each of you. All right? So, a couple last questions I'm getting right now. So, Anna, my son has sleep apnea, upcoming appointments in April. Would that stop my deportation? No, it doesn't. All right? No, it doesn't necessarily. Okay? There might be other ways to stop your deportation, but just the fact that you have a son who has sleep apnea does not prevent you from getting deported. Okay? Divine Queen, I see you here. Is a motion to reopen the same as PD? PD is going to go away. It's going to be done. It's going to be bye-bye. It's not going to exist anymore. But motions to reopen can still be possible. Okay? And so some, in the past, many motions to reopen were filed with a request for PD that we would dismiss the case in agreement with the prosecutor's agreement. That's what prosecutorial discretion means. That's what PD is, right? When it's from the prosecutor, the ICE attorneys, they're in agreement with the motion to reopen. So that's going to go away, right? That's going to go away like in a couple days, okay? And in many ways, it's already out, right? They're not reopening other cases through PD today, right? They're not doing that anymore. And so, no, they're not the same. All right, is the answer. Mr. Pose, I see you here. One last one. You say, am I at risk if I'm waiting to hear back about my green card filed through marriage? If they denied your green card through marriage, as long as you've never been in immigration court before, right? If they denied your case, they would have to put you into deportation proceedings. And if you were there, you could file your case and actually have your case heard before a judge. And because of that, no, you're really not at risk. As long as your green card was well done, as long as it was professionally submitted, as long as your marriage is lawful and bona fide, right? As long as you're eligible for that benefit, I don't think you're at risk, all right? I don't know your specific facts. I'd be happy, you could do a consultation with my team. My team is very good. We're here to help. We'd love to help. But based on the fact pattern as you're seeing it here, straight up marriage-based case, you've never been in immigration court before, and, it's pending right now, I think your risks are very, very low. Okay? Just win that case, because then you'll have a green card. All right, and then your risks, you're lawful at that point. You're not subject to immigration enforcement because you're completely here lawfully at that point. All right, everyone. Thank you all very much for being here. I really appreciate each of you. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. I am not going to have time to do this same episode right here, right now in Spanish, all right? So if you speak Spanish, I'll need to record this episode after the fact and upload it in Spanish. But anyway, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate each of you. So make it a great day, folks. Make it a great day. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time on our next episode. Oh, before I do that, if this was useful, if this was helpful, if you liked it, please do me a favor. Go to our channel in YouTube. Type in Landerholm Immigration in YouTube and hit the subscribe button. All right. So we're wanting to get more subscribers. We're wanting to spread our message, etc. You could really help us with that. I'd really appreciate it if you're able to do that. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Otis Landerholm, Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. We'll see you next time on our next episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.